Welcome to Old Guy Tech,
the OGT.TV recording studio.
Technology for the rest of us.
And again, you're on with Rob Charney, John Manajastic, Jonathan Charney in the corner, piping in. And this is Old Guy Tech TV once more for Wednesday, March 27, 2013. And thank you for viewing. I want to thank you very much. I have been hearing from viewers recently, which has been great. They have actually, I was in a location and this guy came up to me and said, "Hey, I watch your show." I didn't know him from Adam, and I thought that was great. So we got a few watchers out there. I'm glad to hear that. Thank you for watching. For all you people that are watching, of course, hit the donate button, and we'd love to get a few dollars from you. I'm never above that because that's number one to keep us going. We need a little amount of money. So, John, how is John doing?
I am doing well. I am on Easter, spring break. Yeah, just partying my, butt off here.
Is this when you're going to shout YOLO?
YOLO?
It's something the kids say.
I know nothing. And I'm not even going to get to that.
I know even less than you.
Well, there we go. Then between the both of us, we don't know what we're talking about. But I'll tell you what. Let's start out with the number one story that I wanted to start with. We've got a whole bunch of different things to talk about. But apparently, and we're going to pick on the United Nations a little bit because they're fun to pick on. The United Nations International Telecommunications Union, known as the ITU, convened the World Conference on International Telecommunications in December, and it's now just reporting out some of the concerns that Internet freedom people are having over what the heck these countries are talking about. And what it's coming down to, we'll break it down in a nutshell for you, is that it's a way for governments to control your access to what you find on the internet. As a matter of fact, there was one of the bills, or whatever they call it in the UN, about talking about governments taking control of their own little space of the internet. Over 89 countries signed this treaty. That's what it was. That was the word I was looking for, treaty.
Is this CISPA?
The Control Over Cybersecurity and Spam. No, I don't see that acronym in here, John. It's with the ITU. So anyway, apparently, of course, those of us that live, breathe, and eat on the internet, we don't want the government sticking their stinking nose into our business and what we can and can't do. So this opens up the question, should governments have the right to control internet access? Boy, that's quiet in here. Hello?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I'm trying to get my face back on the screen.
Oh, we see you okay there, so you look okay.
Well, that's all that really counts.
That's right.
Basically, it's the UN that when it comes to, let's be honest about it. What are they doing in North Korea? North Korea goes, we're going to explode the United States. The biggest thing to keep them from doing that is, the Chinese, because we owe them too much money.
Yeah, the Chinese won't let it happen.
Do that.
Yeah.
I don't know. At one point I was a member of that union many years ago. I don't know if it was on the international side or not, but I was certainly a member of the union. And they're just not. I'm sorry, I was kind of distracted. They're not happy with what?
Well, so what's happening here is many of the foreign governments want to have a treaty with everybody in the UN so that they could control the access to internet in each of their own countries. In other words, let's say Russia decides that it doesn't want anybody in Russia getting any internet from the United States.
It comes down to the international telecom, whatever it's called. Basically, it's losing power, and it wants to be in charge of the internet.
Oh,
basically the way,
ICON? You talking about ICON?
The ITU, whatever.
Well, the ITU is
it doesn't have any control over the internet, and it's a technology that is slowly being It's a union seeing itself going under because the technology controls over is dying.
Your point well taken. However, I don't think that relates to this particular story. But your comment is well taken. The point is, do we want, right back to it, do we want the government controlling access to what we get on the internet?
No.
No.
Pure and simple, no. This goes back to where we were last week when they wanted to read our text messages. They wanted to read our...
yeah.
No.
Yeah. Well, this
is... It is private intellectual contact, and screw you.
But what do you have to hide, John? They're just protecting you from the bad guys.
Hey, so...
Get out of my have to hide.
And this is coming from a voice unseen because he doesn't want to be on air. So.
I thought it was ironic that way.
Yeah, I'm going to mute you soon. You keep that up.
Go ahead.
Nah.
Anyway, the point is, no.
We
the
need
point
the
is,
orangutans throwing the peanuts. Come
yeah, no. I think the point that we're making here is that once again, we've got government that wants to control everything, and I'm tired of it. I'm tired of being told when I can eat, when I can sleep, how I fly, where I travel, wanting to know everything. And as we talked about with the Patriot Act last week, wanting all of this information about me without any kind of warrant, any kind of overview by a judge, any kind of, anything. John, why don't you just take your background down, take it down, worry about it next time.
It's coming down.
Yeah, okay, so back to the serious stuff. No, the reality, though, is the fact that, the government wants to play a larger and larger role in our lives. Is that what we want? It's not what I want. Is it, come on, callers, 621-1210. Somebody call in and you tell me why it is that I want the UN to be able to tell me what I can get on the internet. Come on, I dare you. First caller, I'll give you a $10 bill. First caller. Good
$10 bill. Cash freaking money.
Man, I don't get it.
Too bad it's probably going to be in pesos.
I wonder if we're not actually streaming live. Oh, the good news. Well, I want to talk to that later.
God, that's kind of scary. Okay.
Anyway, so so apparently nobody gives a damn. So we're not gonna go any further with that because John and I and Jonathan all agree we don't want the government sticking their nose into our business. So
no, not anywhere. And the issue of it is, after having done, when I was student teaching, they said the last 2 weeks are yours. So I'm sitting there, wow, what am I going to do? And I actually jumped upon, it was the 20-year anniversary of Tiananmen Square.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
And you have to realize that while Tiananmen Square is going on, Oracle, U.S. computer companies are making agreements to get into the Chinese market. But they are allowing the Chinese to limit the amount of signal that in other words, American companies are allowing Chinese companies to limit the internet that's accessible in China. So we're not again doing it, and that's the problem. We have the technology, we know how to do it, and it's terribly Hobbesian. How much freedom are you willing to give up for security?
There's, I'll have to find the story for you, but Skype, which is now owned by Microsoft, if you contact somebody in China, it's actually everything you say or type is being logged. So if you type something like kill some Chinese official, they find out, like automatically.
Well, that doesn't surprise me, actually. I can see that.
The surprise is it not only internally, but outside of China.
So one of the things that supposedly keeps our internet free, I mean, the whole idea of the reason why it grew like it grew, why it is like it is because of those freedoms. And one of the nice things that we kind of have over here that some of the other countries don't is that we have a large number of providers of internet content. And, you'll go, it would take a lot, it's all doable, but it would take a lot to shut down all the access in the United States. Many of the smaller countries, of course, don't have that, and many of them have that the internet actually is controlled by the government and dished out like it wants to be, as in China. They actually
Right.
have, they have the wall of internet in China, and
They have limited Google search.
that's right.
It will not give you responses.
Hey, guess
Uh,
what? The phone's calling. Phone's ringing. I'm almost afraid to answer
oh
it.
my gosh! Don't be afraid of the phone.
Hey, this is Rob. How can I help you?
Well, I may be beyond help, Rob. This is Billy.
Hey, Billy, you're calling from for the show?
Of course, I'm calling for the show.
Thank you, Billy. I appreciate that. So what do you got to say?
Well, I actually got a couple of questions.
Okay.
Okay, question number one. The question that you're asking on the show is, do we think that the government should have the ability to monitor or question what we receive online? Is that a true statement?
Yeah. In other words, the government has the ability to filter all content.
Okay. All right. Well, okay. I understand the question now. Now let me ask the question. Let's go to the Eastern Bloc, Russia, so on and so forth, where child pornography is perfectly legal. Okay.
Okay.
And it is brutality to women is perfectly legal. It's actually sold on the internet. Okay.
All right.
Are we?
Are you, Billy? Are you defining that we have limits here, because you'll go to jail if you put that up here?
I'm sorry.
So, in other words, do you? All right. So I understand you're saying that there is in the Eastern Bloc where most of the porn and that type of stuff comes from, and is legal there. But where are you going with this, Billy? So I understand. What's your point?
Okay, Rob. I'm listening to the website, and I'm trying to answer your questions at the same time because there's a time delay here.
Right.
It's causing me a problem.
It's about
And
10 to 15. So yeah.
Okay. All right. My question is quite simply this: is if we as a society, and I'm talking about the United States of America, has said that there are things that we find objectionable. Okay. Does someone, government, whoever, have the right to filter what we consider to be objectionable from outside of our societal norms?
Okay.
Is that correct?
Well, that could be definitely part of the question. Part of the question could be, so do we, and here's the problem. I mean, we make up a big group. We've got Congress that controls the country. Are we supposed to censor that type of material? In other words, little Johnny sitting in his bedroom doing whatever he's doing to the porn that he's getting from another country. Should we take it upon ourselves to play parent or guardian and not allow that content in?
I'm sorry, Rob. We've got such a huge time delay here. I'm having a problem understanding what you just said.
Okay.
Please restate it.
Sure. So make sure you just listen to your telephone and don't have your computer off. If you just listen to the telephone,
It's
there
off
won't be
now.
this.
Right now, it's off right now.
Okay, it'll be a lot better for you.
Thank you.
Okay, here we go. We'll try it again, one more time. So the issue, I'm trying to figure out what your issue is. Is your issue that we need, in this country, we need to control, even in our own country, the ability for our kids or whomever to get the access to the pornography that's available, as you put it, in the Eastern Bloc, and it's our duty to play parent, guardian, police officer, or whatever it may be?
No. I guess what I'm saying is what we find objectionable in this country, or what we find acceptable in this country, are we going to accept what is capable of coming across the internet from another country, what they consider acceptable. How are we going to deal with that situation? And I'll use an example, Rob, that you and I are very we're very we agree with each other on this situation, and I'm talking about gun control.
Okay.
Okay. All right. The Second Amendment in this country allows us the ability to keep and bear arms. Yet there are other countries, specifically in the Eastern Bloc, who do not accept that. Okay? So are we going to appreciate, or are we going to allow people from outside of our sphere of influence because of the internet? Because in the internet, you can talk to people in China or Japan or wherever the case may be, and accept what their values and so forth being brought into our society. Okay, and at what point in time do you have to say to yourself, wait a minute, we have standards here in this country, we have laws in this country, and we have a constitution in this country that does not necessarily agree with what you're saying. Okay? So my point is quite simply this. If people in other countries find that child pornography is acceptable, are you trying to tell me, or is anybody, not you personally, Rob, but is
Understood.
anybody trying to tell me that that should be appropriate for viewing anywhere on the internet just because of the fact that it's on the internet?
If you want my
Well-
opinion, the answer is yes. I mean, that's
Yeah.
the whole issue of the internet. It's open. The minute you start taking control and playing God or playing whatever you want to do as far as taking control of the information that's out there, we have a problem. It's the same thing as, the freedom of the press. It's the same issue. Now, you're right about, we have laws in this country against child pornography, and the possession of child pornography on your computer or printed out or whatever is illegal. But we don't, that still is in force. I mean, these people can still be, even though they can see it and they can watch it, they can still be arrested or prosecuted or whatever it may be for having that material.
Right.
Okay, so
I mean,
let
the
me-
whole
let
thing
me
of
make
it
sure
is,
I understood what you
I don't.
said.
I agree with you under a First Amendment right. I should be able to look at whatever I want to look at, as long as I'm not, and if I'm breaking the law, and if I'm looking at something illegal, then, I guess I'm subject to arrest and prosecution. And my argument in court would be, I understand what you're saying, but it's a First Amendment issue of freedom of speech, and we're not supposed to have any limits on that.
Well, we do have limits because there's a social compact of what is acceptable and not acceptable. What society eventually does not find acceptable, therefore, generally becomes crime. Marijuana is a perfect example. I think it comes to the fact is society says that we don't like this, but it may be legal everywhere else. It comes from the fact that just don't go to the sites.
And that's fine, but to me it's a totally... And Billy, you still with me?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so for me, it's our freedom of speech. I see the issue exactly just that. It's the issue of freedom of speech. And yes, you're right in the fact that there's ways for anybody in this country to get on the internet and get illegal pornography or whatever, right? Content. Okay. So...
Okay, let me ask you a question here.
All
Because
right.
I have a very solid, a very firm belief in this situation. Okay, the First Amendment talks about the freedom of speech. Okay?
Yep.
All right. The Supreme Court has interpreted that to be the freedom of expression. And I would use the example of the pornography issue that Larry Flint used, okay, and that has been supported, okay? We're talking about freedom of expression, okay?
Yeah.
So you can stand up and express yourself. And we're talking about art, paintings, so on and so forth, that one person might find objectionable, but it's covered under the First Amendment.
Correct.
As a freedom of expression.
Right.
All right. Okay. Now, that being said, I would ask someone to say or would to articulate. Does anybody on this forum believe that the founding fathers believe that child pornography I can't formulate the word, but the ability to show women being beaten.
They had no idea.
No, of course not.
You're
Founding
absolutely
fathers
right. They had no idea.
Right.
Okay, but does anybody believe that would even be considered when the Constitution was written?
No.
I would say it was not even considered, and anybody with half a brain that would say, well, the founding fathers thought this was okay. Anybody would say that is an idiot. Okay? They never thought that would be appropriate.
I personally believe that they believed in the system of justice, that if the person did that, their crime would fit, their punishment would fit the crime. I don't think our founding fathers would want freedoms limited on the disguise of protecting anyone. I think what they would want is people to make up their mind and for them to pass laws governing that. Child pornography, rape, etc.
Right. Well, so is there a solution to this? I mean, what's your point, Billy?
Well, start with the original premise of your discussion. Restate that, please, Rob.
Okay. Well, what it has to do. Oh, hold on.
Sorry, we're having some minor technical
I'm gonna have to
difficulties.
switch back. I got to switch back to
what
the
Rob
old.
basically said was
I have to go back.
that the Union and the UN again want to look at our email. We talked about this. We actually started the program with this last week, is them looking at our texts and emails, and that's our local law enforcement without a written wiretap or form. That was the premise, that we don't want anybody looking in on it. And what Jonathan suggested is, I do believe what the founding fathers thought, that the democratic process that they put into motion with an outline of rules and amendments would handle, as times and things changed, the proper applications of the amendments in theory as they put them forth. But there was a dependence on the democratic process, that we would vote, that we would decide collectively as a society what we did and didn't want as a society. And that's the way I heard it, Rob. If you're back up.
I'm back up. My mic's back. Yeah, that's pretty much. That's the way I feel, and that's the way I see it. So, Billy, do you have what would you do?
Well, I only caught a piece of what the last gentleman was speaking.
Okay.
I only caught a piece of that.
All right. Well.
Okay. But the pieces that I caught of it were that the democratic process would basically prevail.
That's right. That's the whole idea, that
right?
our process of justice and the way we do things is designed to do exactly what I think you're talking about. I mean, that's...
Okay, so what you're saying is the democratic process has the ability to override the Constitution? Is that what I just heard you say?
No, it's empowered by the Constitution.
The Constitution provides a framework for the law to succeed without infringing freedoms.
Okay, and that's where I have a problem right there. Okay, the Constitution was written by some of the most intelligent people that ever walked the planet, and they, in my opinion, and I believe the Supreme Court has upheld my viewpoint in the perspective of the Second Amendment. Okay, and that is there are certain things that are unalienable rights. Okay,
Yeah.
and some of those are freedom of speech, and some of them are freedom of religion, the Second Amendment, and so on and so forth.
No, life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
The fact of the matter is that the individuals.
Wait a minute, Bill.
Brain-dead idiots
Life,
do
liberty,
not have
and the
right
pursuit of
to
happiness
step
are
up
the
and say,
three
"We are going
unalienable
to
rights."
override the Constitution.
Okay, hang on, Bill. What John was making a point. I hear where you're going at. John, say your point.
Life,
I'm sorry,
liberty, and the pursuit of
Li-
happiness.
life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Rights. Excuse me. Go ahead.
Right. Billy? Right?
No. I did not hear what John said. So I apologize if I stepped on top of your
That's okay.
John,
I
please restate what you said.
No, well, it was it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness.
Or your inalienable rights.
That is correct. Okay, and I do not believe, and what we're dealing with in this country today, I do not believe that a group of individuals, they're being paid or bribed by current administration to espouse certain ways of dealing with things, have the ability to override some of the most intelligent people that ever walked the face of the earth, and I'm talking about the framers of the Constitution. Okay? The Second Amendment is the Second Amendment. It is not open for discussion. It is not open for review. It is written the way it was written. Okay? And you don't have to like it, but that's the way it is, and that's the way this country was built around. And you can go back to the First Amendment and do the same thing. Okay? I don't have to like what you say, but I have to support your ability to say what you have to say. Because that's the way the framers of the Constitution wrote it. And there are 13 amendments to the Constitution, our basic amendments to the Constitution, that allow us to do certain things. Okay? So when somebody says to me, does the government have the ability to control things? Yes, they do. Now, can I make an argument about whether the Internet is covered under the First Amendment? I could argue that one way or the other. Do I believe somebody from out of this country posting stuff that is available for view in this country, should they be governed by the Constitution of this country? Well, I don't think the framers of the Constitution had that in mind. But you know something? I could make an argument one way or the other. Okay? Now, I'm not really interested in trying to convince people how they should view things, because I've always been a believer in the fact that if you don't like what's on television, turn the TV off. Don't allow everybody on the planet to be cut off. But as
Now,
an
I lost my
individual, you
audio.
have the right to shut the TV off.
You did.
Okay?
Or at least the
Because
telephone
I-
audio.
I believe that. Okay? If you don't like what's on TV, shut the TV off. But don't let everybody on the don't shut it off for everybody by some governmental entity.
Okay,
and
so
I think that's where you're going with this situation.
Well, right. I think now we've come full circle because I think you're absolutely right. I mean, that's, as intelligent human beings, we can probably take both sides of an argument, and if you were in a debate club at all, that's what you did. And so I agree with you as far as that goes. I still a little confused as to a solution, as to is it necessary for our government to control what we view or not? And I say not. But are you saying you think it should?
No.
Okay.
No, I'm not saying that our government should control what we do. What I am saying is our government has a responsibility to uphold the Constitution of the United States.
Okay, 100% with you on that.
Okay. Now, there are multiple people in this country that could argue about constitutionality issues. Can we agree on that?
Sure.
Okay.
Oh yeah.
Okay. And my position is quite simply this: what is legal outside of this country and falls into the legal laws outside of this country does not necessarily come into this country. Okay? We have laws, and here again I made a point of the Second Amendment earlier. There is a move afoot to disallow, or maybe that's a bad terminology, but to not allow firearms outside of this country. And on the internet, they're talking about bringing that into the United States and subverting the Second Amendment. Okay?
Yes.
And I've got a problem with that.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
What happens out there is none of my concern. I'm concerned about what happens in this country. Okay? And if that means that something has to be shut off out there because it has a negative impact on what's going on in here, then I do have an issue with that. Go ahead.
Well, but at the same time, and I'm not. I don't think anybody's Second Amendment rights are being threatened. I know that in Europe already, but then again, you can say they have extremely difficult or extremely strict gun laws. But then it was the guy in Norway that shot 93 people.
Right. So
and they have their gun regulations make ours pale by comparison. There's just too many guns in the world, and I don't think anybody can legislatively do anything about it. If they want to start the revolution and start it here and try to confiscate people's guns because they won't give them up, it will be a violent confrontation. Those deeply seated in the Second Amendment will look at as it is a overthrow of the government overthrowing the people and ending the democratic process. And I would probably be in the streets fighting right alongside of you if that is what happened. I don't see the boogeymen out there waiting to take the guns away. I see the movement worldwide, but the problem of it is I'm not going to be oppressed by somebody with a gun. I'm going to, we're going to get in a battle, and that'll end up that deal.
Yeah, John, I'm going to stop you for a second. I don't really want to get this to be a Second Amendment gun issue. I really don't. I want this to be an issue of intellectual. I want this to be a discussion of what does government have the right to do and not to do, as far as what we can read, what we can see, what we can watch, what we can talk about. That's the issue that I really want to talk about.
Okay,
and part of my issue, let me just interrupt for a second, Bill.
If I may, for just
Billy, hang on one second.
Go ahead,
one second, Billy.
Finish what you're saying.
Okay.
Finish what you're saying. I'm sorry.
Okay, John, you go ahead, and then John can
My issue when you talk about that is I actually am more concerned with NBC Universal Comcast becoming a singular broadcasting entity, controlling the content coming into your home, for a large, I mean, in the movies and the television, in any media, and Sony has a monopoly. We do have media monopolies, and I have some issues there. I mean, they start there, more importantly, because the media, when you go to war, since we've had media to capture, that's always been a primary point, is to get the radio and television stations so you can control the thought or the message that people are getting. And I'm more concerned that maybe it's the government.
Yeah.
That the government, through the Justice Department, is allowing these people to become monopolies on every level, and therefore our media is totally controlled by a few people.
See, that's what bothers me too. Wasn't the government supposed to be there so that this type of situation didn't happen?
Well, I think, and this may be a bad comparison, but I think if you look at the oil industry with Rockefeller, it was still new. I think it happens with newer technology in general.
Television is 75 years old.
Hold on. Is the fact that the government takes time to regulate new technologies. Yes, it's 75 years old. It's still a new technology because it's evolving over time. Now we're in a world where the world is interconnected because of the internet. I can watch TV from Russia. Russians can watch TV from America.
For now, that's the argument. For now.
Yeah, well, the question is, how do you regulate that? And I think that's the issue.
And that's my point. I don't think there should be regulation of that, but that's what these people want. They want to be able to tell you what you can see, hear, think. When we have Comcast owning NBC and all the other news affiliates down the line, that you're going to march to this order, and this is the news you're going to report, and this is only the news you're going to report, and because you need to eat, you need that paycheck, you do what they say, and a third of our population believes everything that comes out of it. I have a problem.
Do you still have the same problem with Rupert Murdoch?
To be objective, I also am highly suspicious of Rupert Murdoch owning a massive number of TV, cable outlets. He owns satellite outlets. I mean, his media holdings, his biggest scandal as of late was in Great Britain, not so much here.
Yeah.
And that he owns the Wall Street Journal. And I explained to kids in class, Benjamin Franklin was Benjamin Franklin because he was the Rupert Murdoch of the 16th century.
You're absolutely right. He provided all the material that they were reading. Yep.
And that was, and then again.
Okay, hold on, Bill.
I think you're saying many things that I appreciate and I support, okay? But there comes a point in time where you have to say, this is objectionable and this is not, okay? And by the laws of this country, we have said that there are certain things that are objectionable in our society.
Correct.
Okay, and I'm going to use I'm going to use child pornography as an example. Okay, now I know both of you will find, and you will agree with me, that child pornography is an abomination on society. Okay, now whether you have the right to deal with to view that or not is not really important. Okay, the laws of this country prohibit it from being shown and being viewed in this country. Now, you could say to yourself, well, but, we're dealing with a global internet exchange of information. Okay, that's fine. And if you want to view child pornography, then you have the right to get on an airplane and take your computer and go to another country where that's perfectly acceptable. But in this country, it is not acceptable. Okay? Now, we're not talking about the difference between information exchange. We're not talking about the difference of political viewpoints. Okay? Because that's one thing. We're talking about what most society find aberrant behavior. Okay? So now let's not confuse these two issues here. Okay? If you want to talk about information exchange, if you want to talk about ideological situations, then that's one thing. Okay? And that's covered under the First Amendment. All right? The Supreme Court has already said that pornography, in this particular case, an example I'm using, is child pornography, is not covered under that and has been excluded from that. And if you want to watch that, you have the right to go out of this country and view whatever you want to view. Okay? Ideological, religious opinions you have the right to view on the internet. If you want to talk about something that comes out of the of that scope, then I'm sorry.
Bill,
I
Bill,
can't
can I
support
interrupt
that.
for just a second?
And I would defy anybody to stand up in a public place and say that I believe that anybody has the right to view that in a public forum.
Okay, Billy, John's got a rebuttal.
Go ahead.
My issue is that if we're going to talk Constitution, and this is how I feel as an American, and many do, and it encompasses your Second Amendment. I'm a huge believer that my Fourth Amendment rights have been decimated over the last 20 years. But under the Fourth Amendment, I have the right to privacy. And if, quote unquote, I want to watch child porn from Russia in my house, I'm going to the Fourth Amendment. I'm saying I should be able,
it's illegal
if it's
under
available,
current law.
I should be able to do it.
You can couch it any way you want to. It's illegal under current law by the Supreme Court. So go ahead and talk all you want. It is illegal. You don't have to like it. It is illegal. It's already been proven in court. So go ahead.
But I'm saying to you, well, give me the statute and the Supreme Court. I know that child pornography is illegal in this country, and I think Rob knows more about the chapter and verse of the statute. What I'm saying is, you can take a libertarian point of view and say under the Fourth Amendment, as long as I'm doing it in the privacy of my own home and I'm not hurting anybody else, screw you, I'm okay. As long as I'm not forcing you to watch child pornography, I'm not acting out on the child pornography that I'm watching. But can I watch it? I go to the Fourth Amendment and say that I have the right of privacy in my own home, and I can do pretty much what I want in my own home.
Okay, yeah, and you're right. You're right. You have the right to view whatever you want to in your own home. Okay. Now you have to ask yourself the rest of the question. The rest of the question is how did it get to your home? Okay. Did it come from this country? It's illegal. Okay. Did it come from out of this country into this country? It's illegal under FCC regulations. Okay. So you can watch whatever you want to watch as long as it didn't come into your home illegally. So how did it get into your home in the first place? Okay.
Are you holding the internet, which the Rob again I'll defer to about how a signal gets around on the internet? There's probably many countries complicit by the time it gets to your home. It's illegal. Okay, fine. It's illegal. It's illegal to do drugs. There are a lot of things that are illegal that people do in the privacy of their home. There are probably, I'm not even going to there are probably illegal sex acts in the state of California. Maybe one, none, or some of us have participated in over the last 50 years. There are laws on the books that say all kinds of things are illegal. In the case of child pornography, my across the board is that the children unfortunately don't get to experience any innocence. Things like child pornography, things like pornography, things like soft porn, things that are things posted on Facebook are not okay. Some of them may be illegal, and they'll be taken down on these mediums if they are. But the fact of the matter is, you can sit there and say, you can make the same argument for immigration. They're illegal. They're undocumented. But why are they here? Because somebody is paying them and wants them here and wants a cheaper form of labor. They're illegal. Well, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to amnesty them? Or are you going to throw them out of the country? Are you going to deport them?
No.
Are you going to make a law to accommodate them? This is what the democracy is all about.
we've started to get off the the text that we're talking about here. The text is: do we believe, or do we have any viewpoint as it relates to the internet and free exchange of information? Okay.
I thought I discovered that.
You and I could have ideological differences of opinion on the internet, and nobody has a problem with that. Okay, when you start bringing in information or bringing in viewpoints that are illegal by U.S. statutes, now you've crossed the line.
Okay, so I'm going to cut in here on this conversation because we've come full circle here, and it was back to the question with, what would you want to have happen as far as, do you want the government to block child pornography being able to come into your computer, or is it more important that if you're going to do it, it's controlled under, most of the time these child pornographers do something illegal anyway, or crooks or bad guys, and they get caught. They're not the smartest people on the block. And do we want due process and local control to take care of that? So it's either, is it big government? You want big government control what you get to see, or should we just let the processes that we have now continue?
Well, from my perspective, Rob, I would. My response is quite simply this: if it's illegal in this country, it should not be viewed on the internet, because this country has already made a statement that it should be illegal. Okay. When you're talking about ideological issues, differences of viewpoint as far as race, religion, whatever the case may be, we can argue that because those are ideological issues. Okay, when you start putting pornography, when you start putting child pornography, stuff that has been already adjudicated as being illegal to be shown in this country, that's a whole different viewpoint. Now, are we dancing on a double-edged sword? Well, we may be. But the fact of the matter is we have a Supreme Court. We have judges. We have people that, Lord have mercy, we have voted into office. Okay, and we won't talk about those people that have been voted in to make decisions on our behalf, that have already said that this is illegal and this is what we find objectionable in this country. Okay, if we have said that, why would we possibly want to accept a deviation from that? Just because, well, the First Amendment, wait a minute, the First Amendment does not allow you to be brain dead and stupid.
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does.
Yeah, it does. But here, okay, so
Thank you very much. It does not.
Yeah, it does. It gives you the freedom to say anything you want, Billy.
The Supreme Court has already said it does not.
All right, we'll agree to disagree on that. I believe it does, but I still have a problem. I understand exactly where you're coming from. I'm with you 100%. I think it's atrocious that these children are being preyed upon, and these women are being preyed upon, and it's being sent out to make money and make millions of dollars. I think it's all awful. No disagreement with that at all. But that's where now we come to what I've been trying to get to. Who controls the ability for us to view that, or should there not be controls? I'm on the side of fault on, let everything come through, and let our processes that work in this country work. But don't play big government and say, you know what, I'm going to block everything from this particular country coming into this United States just because they have some porn. They might have some great educational stuff on there too. There are some technical issues that just can't be overcome by simply, saying, okay, well, I'm going to block porn. The fact is there's so many technical ways of bouncing around things and making your links and your sites and bouncing around different countries. It's almost impossible to control. So to do a decent job, you have to kind of do what China does, which is controls everything. The pipe that comes into their walls, and their sensors sit there and tell their people what they can and can't see. And there's where my problem is. The way the internet physically works, the way it's interconnected, I don't want our government getting involved into what comes into our computers.
Rob, I agree with you. I agree with you up to the point where you said it's difficult to do what we want to do to control that we don't allow child pornography or some of the more objectionable things to come through our computer. I agree with you. That's a difficult situation to deal with. And, I spent 21 years in the service, and our operative motive was the difficult we do immediately. The impossible takes us just a little bit longer. We have the technology to handle this, and when people say, well, you can't do that, oh, yes, we can. Ask the NSA, ask the CIA. We can do this.
Yeah, it's the first book on the fire, Billy.
Here,
I mean,
Jonathan, what do you got? Jonathan's got something. Hang on.
And we didn't so much care for. I think anything should be come in. I take a libertarian point of view on this. Like you said, if you don't want to watch it, don't hook up to it. You have to go through some pretty extreme measures to find out how to find the streaming.
The technically, Jonathan,
I think it comes down to what Rob is saying and what Billy is saying is there's two different viewpoints on there. Is negate on the side of privacy or openness. If the government does it, everything you do, every transaction, every email, every text, every aspect of your digital life is going to be scanned, controlled, or watched by some sort of government agency, program, or overpaid government bureaucrat versus some sort of private organization keeping track, monitoring, and alerting the authorities. I think that's the
you're right.
questions.
And on the technical side, the fact is we would have to have human beings sitting there watching all this stuff coming in to be able to make a determination: is that child pornography or not? I mean, Billy, you're right. They could go out there and cut all the undersea cables if they wanted to, but that's about what they would have to do to stop the stuff. Even NSA. A number of years back, there was an encryption program which is still used today called Pretty Good Encryption, right? PGP. This encryption was so good that the gentleman that wrote it ended up going to prison because he wouldn't put a back door into it for the NSA. So there are ways that we can go around our government, and I just can't see us putting ourselves in a situation now where now we have sensors censoring everything that's coming in.
Well, I guess that's why the world is the way the world is. We all we all have our opinions, and we at some point in time we have to agree that we can disagree.
Okay, and I'm good with that, except
I will say to you that there are certain things that I think the government should keep out of our lives. There are certain things that I think it's none of their business, and I think that if we paid attention and we actually voted for people that were going to do something for the good of the country instead of what's in it for me. Oh, gosh, did I say the Obama crew? I didn't mean that. I didn't mean to say that, okay? But the fact of the matter is maybe we'd be a whole lot better off if we took personal responsibility, okay? I don't
Well,
watch
wait a minute, Billy. Number one, you attacked the Obama administration that doesn't have a point of view on this.
John, hold on a
Number
second.
two.
John, just give it. He's not finished talking. But
hang on, Billy.
No,
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, John.
Go ahead, John.
Well, the problem is that you contradicted yourself. I don't mean to. Don't be throwing the dirt in somebody's face because the FCC regulations, broadcast regulations keep changing all the time, and they're the FCC was greatly weakened, and what we have and don't have by virtue of the FCC changed a great deal in W's administration. But then you say, well, but the fact of the matter is, under the First and Fourth Amendment, you let it in. If you want to be the police that are going to watch to make sure, because we can't monitor it, the problem is you're saying we should take personal responsibility. Well, then do you want to be the guy that watches the TV to make sure it doesn't get in? Do you want to watch for the porn? I understand what you're saying about personal responsibility, but now your argument has gone all over the planet, and I just can't buy it. Because some people are. Who is not personally responsible to keep an eye on this child pornography you're so upset about?
I'm not personally upset about child pornography. The question was posed: does the government have a right to control what comes across the internet? My point is, yes, it does.
Okay.
My point is
that was the answer. That was the answer that we were looking for, Billy. We wanted you. You finally got to the point. Yes, you believe that our government has the right, or should, find ways of blocking illegal information, whatever form it may be, to coming into our country.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I firmly believe that we have the right. The government has the right, based on what we've given them, to control that.
Okay.
And the thing is, and if you don't agree with that, then you absolutely have the right to turn your TV off. You have the right to turn your computer off. Okay. But the thing is there are also people who have the right to not commit murder, but they do. There are people who have rights to do a bunch of things.
Well, okay, your point is taken. I understand exactly where you're coming from. And I got to tell you, thank God that you called. I really appreciate you bringing your input into here, because it sure stirred John and I up pretty good. and I want you to call every week, but Billy, I really do.
Well, I got to tell you that sometimes it becomes a problem for me from the standpoint that I've got to go to work at 2 o'clock this morning.
I know, you damn truck drivers. You guys have to get up so early. But I want to thank you very much for calling, Billy. I really appreciate it. And I thank you for your opinion, and thank you for taking part of this. Man, we ate up almost an hour on one subject that I thought was going to go for about 10 minutes. So you did great. Thank you again so much for calling. And you know what? I'll be talking to you soon, I bet.
And you know something, I have to say that I appreciate the stimulating conversation. Whether we agree to agree or agree to disagree, it doesn't matter. We had a stimulating conversation, and I appreciate the conversation.
Absolutely, and that's what this whole show is all about.
Thank you, sir. We'll talk to you later.
Okay, Billy. Thank you for calling.
You bet.
Bye. So, John, there was another point of view, and I think you and I probably think differently than Billy, which is, well, thank God that's what this country is all made of. We have the ability to think differently about it. But in a wrap up for me on this particular topic really is that not only is it, and I won't say impossible, but it's going to be very, very, very difficult for a government to filter all the information that's coming into a country the size of the United States. I mean, if you're a little tiny country like, let's say, Cyprus or something, you can do it real easy. Or you start out your infrastructure like China did, where everything comes through there. Right? So, but we have the freedoms in this country, and I do not want the UN or our ITU or whatever telling me what I can watch or not watch, or what's going to come in or not come into the internet, because my God, that's what made the internet what it is today, is the fact that we had all these freedoms and all these abilities to share information globally that we never had before. And why are we growing in leaps and bounds with technology and other things? Is because of that freedom.
It has always been that way, and that's why, when you start saying to me legal, illegal, I'm going, a lot of illegal has been illegal, and what's legal is now. I mean, that changes, and that's where that's at. But at the end of the day, I like the free flow of information, because there is a possibility that somebody could learn something. I mean, somebody said this to me the other day. I don't know if it was you, and I don't know if it was me or where exactly they heard it, but they said, if you're gonna put me on hold while I'm trying to communicate with you telephonically, which, as you know, happens with anybody that calls somebody for whatever service. How come I have to listen to your stinking hold music? It's all digital phone. When I can't play, why can't I, listen to my Pandora?
Hey,
listen to my music.
Well, you can.
While I'm on hold.
You know what we did? We put we have music on hold in our phone system here, but we put a bunch of stuff that I liked on a computer, and we're feeding our phone system through a computer playing music that I like. So it's a canned music.
Which by the time you get there, you could have somebody pretty pissed off.
Yeah, you probably could.
Be tapping their phone. One of the two. But I mean, that's when I'm going to have a conversation with you when we get off one of these days of, okay, what's the technology for me able to put my Pandora on instead of that insipid music that the IRS, the insurance company, the everything, I'm going to puke. Oh, I got to listen to it again.
All I want,
give me my Pandora.
I like the ones that you call and it's just a tone. You hear a tone like every 15 seconds. That's all I want. Just give me a little. Just let me know you haven't hung up on me. But don't play me any music. I don't want any music. And
the one thing I want to pick up before we get out of here. My dear friend mentioned this last night and I did find it ironic that in the most religious week. For all religions, whether it be Christianity, Judaism, Islam, whatever, our Supreme Court is considering gay marriage and DOMA. just a strange.
With Easter being on Sunday, and here's the Supreme Court now. We don't know.
We don't
know what's going to
happen until June.
Yeah, absolutely. And no decision might be the decision. So. You know what? The way I'm listening to what I heard today, it wouldn't surprise me if no decision is the decision. So we'll see what happens. Maybe we'll start a poll.
$10
Actually,
says
I think
they
there'll
do
be a
vote
decision
for
on
it.
DOMA. There may not be a decision on Prop 8.
Right.
But one or the other will be decided, which will affect the flow. I mean, it's kind of ludicrous to me in the liberal media. They're now, denoting Democrats that have come out in favor of. The issue of it, the bottom line is, right, wrong, or indifferent, 81% of the 18-21 demographic says they want it. Guess what? Folks, don't get too angry with it. It's their world. The way things move now, they're going to have to live in it. They're also going to have to make their own world because we didn't leave them the greatest world on the way out the door.
Well,
it's all the hippies' fault.
I have kids complaining often that it should be, marry who you want to.
And you know what? That's a personal decision that you know what? You have the absolute right to believe what you want to believe. I'm fine with that. And I'm not really so fine that this whole thing is in front of the Supreme Court, to be honest, in my opinion. I think it's just, if the people voted on something and it's a majority, and it's a majority that's high enough that, just because you don't like it, you're going to bring it in front of a court or whatever it may be. That's our process. Fine, that's the way it goes. But at some point,
these are the Brown versus Board of Education, Hernandez v. Texas issues of this generation. LBGT, civil rights. It would be nice if we could deal with it quickly, but it's taken a long time to get where we've gotten. There has been an accelerated learning curve over the last 8-9 years in comparison to the last 9,000 years.
Well, absolutely.
But be that as it may, it's a wedge issue that isn't getting us any closer to jobs or fixing this economy. It's allowing some people, you got rights. I'm thrilled to death for you. I recognized your rights in the first place. Doesn't make you special. Just means you have rights like I do.
Right.
Which means we have to go into the forum of our democracy and barter for the best rights that we can get.
Yeah, I guess that's one way of looking
at it. You have to look at things like you barter for what you get.
Yep. Well,
if you don't barter, you don't get.
You don't get. I agree. Hey, listen, I'm going to make a couple things are going to change, hopefully for next week for the better.
Okay.
We've got
background that sticks.
You'll get John. First thing we'll get him a decent background. sticks. That was some humorous moments.
I did it for. I knew that was.
Yeah, I know you did that. That was great. So we are going to be doing a partnership with a company called Cal.net. That's CAL.net. And Cal.net is a major WISP. And so people are going to ask me, what is a WISP? And a WISP is a wireless internet service provider. And we're working on an agreement right now where the bandwidth that's going to be coming in our studios is going to be a 10,000-fold of what we've got now, so that we won't have some of the issues, the delays, and some of the few things that we've got. So if it all works the way it's supposed to work, knock on wood, I have no wood in here to knock on, but it's going to be incredible. We'll be able to do some really great stuff, and one of the things that will go along with it is that CalNet's going to be one of our major sponsors, and this will probably become an Old Guy Tech TV bandwidth provided by Cal.net. And I just wanted to
sponsor
this is a big sponsor for us, so we're real excited. We don't have the ink on the paper yet, but we're pretty close. And we just want to thank them for even thinking about what they're doing. And I can tell you firsthand, they've already put up the towers, the dishes, and all the stuff they need to do to get into this building. And supposedly tomorrow they're going to be in here getting us some just incredible stuff. So we're real excited about it. They seem to be excited about it. Thank God in this age, somebody's got enough brains to understand branding works. And I really want to hope them the best and try to get them as many customers as we can. So,
well, I want to thank Billy, and I want to thank them for making this for growing the small enterprise that it is.
You know what? Thank you, Billy. I can't thank you enough. Billy and I have known each other for a number of years. We shoot trap together, and we get into these kind of discussions almost every time we're together. So I'm really glad you decided to share it with the world here, because it's fun. We have a good time with it. And Billy and his wife Sid are great people, so thank you very much for that. And John, I want to say once again thank you for joining me with this conversation and making this show what it is. And we're having a great time. All we need to do is get some of you guys to click on that donate button. You seen that donate button? It's right next to the picture that you're looking at. Hit that button. Give me $10. Give me $5. I don't care.
Give him a buck.
Give me a buck. You know what? We've had some donations. We've had a couple of $100 donations. So thank you very much to those two that did that. And you know who you are. And I'm not going to embarrass you by naming you, but thank you. And thank the rest of you. Please just consider helping us with the show, because just like Billy joining in with John and I, it gives us. We are over. We're 1 hour, 8 minutes into a show on one topic. So you know that we have a lot to talk about.
Oh, there most definitely is. And when we get more bandwidth, the repartee will tighten up, and it'll be good.
That'll be good. It'll be great. So, hey, guys, thank you very much. This is Rob Charney, John Manijestic, and Jonathan Charney for Old Guy Tech TV. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time. This episode of Old Guy Tech TV is brought to you by Ward's Automotive, specializing in Banks Power and Pack Brake, servicing your car or truck, and specializing in diesel engines. Over 30 years of service, located in Diamond Springs, California. Give them a call at 530-626-5588.